Most companies think ISO 9001 starts with documentation, but ISO 9001 does not start with SOPs. ISO 9001 starts with the understanding of business. That is why ISO 9001 clause 4 is very important. Clause 4 is called context of the organization. Clause 4 is the foundation of ISO implementation. If clause 4 is not done properly, then ISO becomes generic. It becomes copy paste, and the system will not work in real life. So in this video, I will explain ISO 9001 clause 4 in a very simple and practical way. No technical language, only MSME friendly steps. Hi, I'm Sagar Naik, founder of Swades QMS and quality management consultant. Let's understand clause 4 step by step. What is clause 4? Clause 4 is about understanding your business environment. In simple words, clause 4 asks, who are you as a company? What affects your business? What are your internal and external issues? Who are your interested parties? What is your scope? What are your processes? Because ISO says before controlling quality, first understand the system. If you don't understand the business context, then your QMS will incomplete. Clause 4 has 4 main parts. That includes understanding the organization and its context, understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties, determining the scope of QMS, establishing the QMS and its processes. Now, let's go one by one. 4.1 Understanding the organization and its context. So, clause 4.1 is about context. Context means what is happening inside and outside your organization that affects quality. ISO wants you to identify internal and external issues. Internal issues inside the company. Internal issues can be manpower shortage, skill gap, machine breakdown, high rejection, weak supervision, poor discipline, poor documentation, culture, lack of resources, high employee turnover. These issues affect your quality performance. For example, if turnover is high, training becomes weak. If machine maintenance is poor, defects increase. So, internal issues must be identified. External issues outside the company. External issues can be customer expectations, competitor pressure, raw material price increase, supplier inconsistency, government regulations, export requirements, labor laws, environmental compliance, market demand fluctuations. Example, if customer expects faster delivery, you must plan accordingly. If regulations are changing, you must comply. So ISO says you must understand external issues also. Why this is important? Because your ISO system must match your business reality, not textbook. If your biggest risk is supplier quality, your QMS must focus on supplier control. If your biggest risk is machine downtime, your QMS must focus on maintenance planning. That is why clause 4.1 is the starting point. 4.2 Understanding the needs and expectations of interested parties. Now, clause 4.2 talks about interested parties. Interested parties means people or groups who affect your business or are affected by your business. Many companies think only customer is important, but ISO says there are many interested parties. Example, customers, suppliers, employees, government bodies, auditors, investors, society, local community, certification bodies. Now, ISO asks, what are their needs and expectations? For example, customer expects quality product, on-time delivery, proper packaging, correct specification, Employees expect safe workplace, stable job, training and growth. Government expects legal compliance, GST compliance, labor law compliance. Supplier expects clear purchase orders, timely payment. So, ISO wants you to identify these expectations because if you ignore interested parties, your business will face risk. Practical MSME way to do this. For MSMEs, don't make complicated charts. Just make a simple table. Interested party, expectation, risk if not fulfilled. That's enough. Clause 4.3, determining the scope of the QMS. Now, clause 4.3 scope. Scope means what is included in your ISO system. ISO wants your scope to be clear because auditors will audit based on scope. Scope includes your products, your services, your locations, your departments, your processes. Example of scope statement. We manufacture and supply sanitary napkins and diapers at Goa plant. That's scope. Now, scope must match reality. Some companies write scope too big. Then they struggle during audit. Some companies write scope too small. Then customer don't trust. So, scope should be realistic and correct. Now, let's talk about exclusions. ISO also allows exclusions only for clause 8.3, design and development, if not applicable. For example, if you are not doing product design, you can exclude this design clause, but you must justify it. Many companies wrongly exclude clauses. That creates audit issues. Scope. So, scope must be decided carefully. Clause 4.4, quality management system and its processes. Now, clause 4.4 is the most practical part. Clause 4.4 says, identify your processes and manage them like a system. This is called process approach. This is the heart of ISO because ISO does not want departments. ISO wants processes. So, what is a process? A process is simple. Input, activity, output. For example, purchase process. Input is requirement plus supplier list. Activity, PO plus negotiation plus inspection. Output, approved material. Production process, input is raw material. Activity, manufacturing steps. What is the output? Finished goods. Dispatch process, what's the input? Finished goods. Activity, packing plus labeling plus delivery. What's the output? Customer delivery. So, ISO wants you to map processes. Process ownership. ISO expects each process to have an owner. For example, purchase head is owner for purchase process. Production head is owner for production process. Quality head is owner for inspection process. HR head is owner for training process. Why? Because if ownership is not defined, nobody takes responsibility. Then problems repeat. And ISO becomes only QA department work. Now let's understand process interaction. ISO also expects process interaction. That means processes are connected. For example, if purchase fails, production suffers. If production fails, dispatch fails. If dispatch fails, customer complains. So ISO says, look at the whole flow, not only one department. This is the main reason ISO improves business. Process control. Now, ISO expects process control. That means define criteria, define methods, define monitoring, define KPIs, define risks, define responsibilities. For example, Production process. Control points can be raw material verification, machine settings, in-process inspection, final inspection, packing verification. So, clause 4.4 helps to create a stable system. Why clause 4 is important? Clause 4 is the base of ISO. If clause 4 is strong, then ISO becomes customized to your business. If clause 4 is weak, then ISO becomes copy paste. And copy paste ISO never works. That is why most companies fail, because they create ISO documents without understanding processes. Now, let's summarize clause 4. Clause 4 says, understand internal and external issues. Identify interested parties and expectations. Define scope of ISO system. Identify processes, owners, and interactions. Clause 4 is like foundation of a building. If foundation is strong, the ISO system becomes strong. If foundation is weak, then ISO will collapse during audit and daily operations. If you found this video useful, like this video and subscribe to Swades QMS. In the next video, we will cover ISO 9001 implementation. If you want ISO implementation support, internal audits, or certification readiness for your MSME, you can contact Swades QMS. Details are in the description. Thank you for watching.